Well, hey everybody, and happy Friday. Excited to have Maureen Werrbach here. Am I saying your name right?
You are.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So Maureen comes to us from the Group Practice Exchange, and she had a guest blog post last week. And usually we do these Facebook Live interviews the week the person has a blog post, but last week was a holiday weekend and I was traveling. So here we are catching up this week. So hello, Maureen.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this and for contributing a guest post for the month of May.
Yes, I was excited to do it. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Well, let's just start out. Just introduce yourself. So, what is it that you do? Maybe a little bit of a backstory that got you here today.
Sure. So today is actually my 6-year anniversary that my group practice started. So
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, an exciting day. So I own a group practice in Chicago, and I have a few locations and about 20 therapists, and we do counseling, the whole spectrum. We have couples counselors, kids counselors, adult counselors, and then we have some psychologists who do testing and a nurse practitioner who does medication management. So we're kind of this wraparound service for people in our community. And from that, I really just, I was kind of winging it and doing this all on my own. 6 years ago, there weren't Facebook groups. There weren't these communities of people that, you could help each other out. And so I started the Group Practice Exchange because I was getting a lot of people locally that were friends or who I previously had worked with who wanted to get feedback on how I was starting and growing my own group practice. And that's sort of where the Group Practice Exchange came in. And I did the one-on-one coaching and then built that Facebook group. And it's just become a place where people who are thinking about starting a group or current group practice owners can, get feedback from each other and get the support they need that they might not get because can be kind of isolating to be a group practice owner and get, sort of feedback and direction. And so that's kind of where that came in.
Wow, that is awesome. I know my wife is in private practice, and so she's thought right now she's just kind of solo doing her thing, and so she's thought about moving into sort of a group model, and so we're always interested in hearing other people's stories, like how they did that, or how that works to market a group practice, or even just run it from the day to day. And I'm not in that space, obviously, of doing web design, so that I just give you kudos for doing that and just just building. It sounds like a great couple of practices you got going on there.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and most recently, I've started a third business with a partner and friend of mine, Mike Blumberg, which is also to help group practice owners, but we do in-person live trainings, day-long trainings with CEUs. Wow. And kind of travel around the U.S. So that's kind of been a fun, different way of helping group practices versus what I do with the Group Practice Exchange, which is all sort of online and through courses and one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm having fun with it.
Sounds like you're staying pretty busy.
Yes. Yeah, that is true.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive in a little bit into the blog post that you wrote, and the title of that was 10 Ways to Market Your Group Practice That Bring Results. And so I thought that we could jump into maybe the first 5 points, and you can kind of just unpack them a little bit more and maybe share some of your experience and some examples along the way.
Sure. So we do on the first one is, I said, a website that is engaging and easy to navigate and makes it easy for clients to reach you. And I feel like this was one that no solo or group practice owner can really bypass in today's modern technology world. Most people are finding us online. And so it's a real disservice to not have a good website. And so I put that as my number one because I feel like at the end of the day, people are going to Google you or research you, and they want to have a website that doesn't make it so hard for them to figure out if you can help. And so I think as a group practice owner, it's even more challenging because if you're solo, the website is a little bit more basic. It's just about me, the services I offer.
Right.
But as you start a group and the more clinicians you have, with me having 20, it can get kind of hard for clients to scroll through 20 bios before figuring out who's a good fit. And for me, it's really important that the client makes that decision versus we have a receptionist and we can obviously let them know who's a good fit. But even when we do that, we give them the bio pages of the clinicians we think are a good fit. I think it's really important that they invest in making that decision ahead of time because it makes them more likely to come and more invested in counseling altogether.
Yeah.
But as a group, I've noticed that it gets sort of hard to equally have your clinicians on your website in a way that makes it not difficult for clients to figure out who they should see. And so some ways of doing it is by having a very easy to read menu bar that says, where you can go, home, about our group practice, here's our clinicians, and then here are the services we offer. But then also things like having drop downs, because depending on if you're like me, and I'm multi-specialty, so we do everything from EMDR, working with kids, adults, couples, families, trauma work.
Right.
We have these drop downs for like adults. You click down to adults, and then there's a second sub drop down or whatever that has EMDR, emerging adults. We have various trauma, various specialties just within the adult category. And if they click on trauma, then the 3 or so adult therapists who work with trauma show up, which makes it much more easier for clients to then choose between 3 versus like looking at what I usually see is like a main therapist page with 20 people showing up. You know?
Yeah, that's really great. That's a really good idea. I'm actually working on a website right now for someone who has a group practice. It's a play therapy practice. It sounds like they don't have as many specialties as you're working in, but I can see that being really important for when you do have those certain specialties, because otherwise you have somebody who's, oh, wow, they've got 20 clinicians and they're clicking through, oh, I really like this bio. And, oh, they don't do what I'm actually looking for.
Right. And I was going to say, even with your example, I always say with our couples therapists, we have, I don't know, maybe 6 couples therapists. And a lot of couples think couples therapist, any one of them is fine. But even within couples therapy, there's things that couples therapists like to do that others don't. There's some that like to work with those that are half in, half out, kind of that discernment counseling. Like, I don't even know if I want to be with my partner type of counseling. But I have some clinicians who that is really, it really exhausts them and pulls their energy out. And they prefer to work with those that are both equally invested and just have gotten bored or, want that like rejuvenation. And so for couples, we have a main couples page and then drops down to like distressed couples and couples who want this rejuvenation. And so even with like play therapy, I'm sure there's play therapists there who like to work more with children with trauma using play therapy. And then there's probably therapists there that like to work with kids with anxiety and do play therapy with them. So even within our child category, there's then drop downs for different specialties within child therapy that our therapists work with. And I think that just makes it even more likely that the client will get a good fitting clinician with them.
That's really good. Yeah. I'll have to get links to your group websites to check those out, because I'm actually this is really the first group practice that I've done. I've mostly done solo practitioners, so I'm always excited to see examples of that. Sounds like you've done a really great job organizing that.
I mean, dude, websites, I feel like are the one thing that never is done. And so I'm currently in the process. I hired Marissa Lawton, and she's doing content writing for me. Great. So we're in the process.
She's done copy for the last few websites I've
she's building that up right now for me so that we can add some more subspecialty pages. So
awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my first point, I think, especially for group practice owners, is just making sure that your client or potential client can just quickly and easily figure out who's a good fit for them. Nobody wants to spend too much time trying to browse and navigate. I know we're really interested in our websites and how they look, but clients, they just want to get to the end point.
Yeah, you just got to get them to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, awesome. So what was tip number 2 for marketing a group practice?
Having your clinicians blog regularly to their ideal clients. And so this one, it sort of depends on how you have your business set up or your group practice set up. I have W-2s, they're employees, so it's something that I can ask of them. If you have independent contractors, you might want to look and see how you can structure that with independent contractors. Obviously, if it's something that they like doing, then it's easy breezy. You can put that onto your website. But one of the nice things about blogging is obviously it helps with SEO. It's building your website. It's giving you more presence and visibility. But also, I did an interview with Marissa on my podcast, and she was talking about the idea of touch points, which is a client needing a handful of different ways of seeing you before they feel the like, know, and trust factor and want to invest in you.
Yeah.
And so one of those ways is by having blogs up. And so my clinicians write blogs to their specific ideal clients. And if a client is kind of on the fence, maybe they haven't done counseling before and are really nervous, they can, a list of their blogs comes up and they can kind of hear their voice outside of the bio, because a bio is, I think our bios are really good, but it can only give so much information. And so these blogs can really help with having clients get to see how much more that clinician knows. So I'm a big fan of blogging and having the clinicians blog. There's obviously, you might have some clinicians who aren't great or quality writers or don't like to write. And then there's alternatives like vlogging or doing some sort of video, which gets even more hits on social media than the written word. But that's another option you can do.
Yeah. And do you just kind of work out a schedule with your clinicians on who's posting when? They kind of take slots like once a month or something like that?
No, I'm a little bit lax on it. So I have a bonus structure for it. And so every 6 months, July 1st and January 1st, if they want to get a bonus, they have to write each 2 blogs. So oftentimes most of them send me their 2 blogs. So I get about 40 something blogs all like June 30th. So then I manually kind of post those out myself throughout the following 6 months. That seems to work for us well, but I know that other group practice owners just pay a flat dollar amount per blog to have their clinicians write it. It's another way that works. But I think it's a great way for the clinician to get their voice out there too. It's establishing them. I always kind of think about the idea of, with my staff, I really want them for this to be their career versus just like a job. And so one of the ways that happens is that they're investing their time in, exposure and getting out there. And so blogging is one of those ways to do that.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what is tip number 3?
Google AdWords done professionally. So it's kind of funny. I'm laughing as I'm reading it because last year, if you would have asked me, Google AdWords was junk and not cool. And I had tried to do it myself a few years ago and had so many negative keywords and just didn't get what I needed out of it. And I've learned since I work with John Clark's service, Unconditional Media. Yeah. And I did a podcast interview with him before I started using him about Facebook ads versus Google AdWords. And I finally was like, all right, I'm just going to try it again. And so I handed it off to his company. And in the first month, I had a 71% increase in website visitors.
Wow.
So I started January 1st, so 6 months exactly today. 71% more visitors in the first month of January than I did the previous 6 months doing nothing on Google AdWords. And so that just kind of was a hook, line, and sinker for me. And ever since, I've really seen a huge increase in calls because, and it's attributed completely to AdWords because when I make a marketing change, I do only one thing because I want to make sure that that's the thing that's increasing the calls. And it's done a lot. And it's also then done a lot with helping me figure out where I needed to make some adjustments on my website because Google AdWords can only do so much. It can bring people to your website, but it can't make them want to call you. And so the second piece of it is figuring out, why are people bouncing off my page? Why are people not navigating on my different website or different pages? And this is why I have Marissa now editing those pages, because we're looking at the things that seem to have higher bounce rates than other pages and making sure that it's speaking to our ideal clients better. So Google AdWords, I love it.
Great. That's great. Yeah, I've spoken to many people who have done it themselves, and they're getting calls that aren't a good fit, and people are bouncing. It's like, I'm spending all this money to advertise. Like, does it really work? And I guess the key is to give it over to a professional if you can.
Yeah, it's one thing I've learned big time. I thought I would never do Google AdWords again, and I thought Google probably has some weird algorithm that's, prioritizes the people who spend $1 million on it. And at the time, I probably did it 3 or 4 years ago. So I was probably 2 years old as a group practice, not very established. And I kind of had given up, but I figured now at the size that I am, I have a little bit of extra income that I could use to play around with. And I thought, I'll try this Google AdWords out. Yeah. If anything, I could prove John Clark wrong that it doesn't work, right? And I didn't.
That's awesome. Yeah, because you've got numbers and you've got metrics that are tied to that with analytics. So it's the numbers don't lie. So so it's always good to test these things. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
The next one,
four,
community outreach and speaking engagements. So I love this, and this has sort of become, well, I should say I hate marketing in person. I'm super introverted, and I prefer, just the idea of knowing that people are going to watch this. And it's the same with my podcast. Every time I just pretend like it's la la la, I'm just talking to myself. And then as soon as it goes out, I'm like, oh my God, all these people are listening. So I'm the same with marketing. I really don't like to get in front of a lot of people. But it's evolved in a way. I'm lucky. I've grown in a way that I have people who can do things for me. And so since that's not my strong suit, I have someone who does marketing on my behalf. I do a lot of the back end marketing, the digital stuff. But community outreach and speaking engagements have become kind of a forefront and center method for us. One of our values in my group practice is to be able to give to the community more. And so we do, our speaking engagements are free out in the community. If we do like workshops or groups in the office, they're obviously cost money. But once a month, we do one speaking engagement out in the community at a local business or school. And it's free. And one of my clinicians does it, and I pay them to do it. And my clinical director does the research and finds one place every month. Sometimes we do two. But what's nice is that for not too much money, I only have to pay my clinician to go out and do that speaking engagement. We get a huge return on investment on people who then come and call. And so the week after we do a speaking engagement, we can see the influx of calls that come in because they saw one of my clinicians do a talk at a local school on teen dating, right? And 10 to 15 clients will call parents saying, my teen really loved that clinician that came in and talked at our school. Is she available? And so I find it to be kind of a twice beneficial thing. One is that it just is increasing our exposure and filling clinicians up. And it doesn't take much time. It's about an hour of my clinician's time. And because I have so many, even if each of them does it once a year, that's not much of their time, but it totally increases our overall exposure. But two, I feel like it's a great way to give back to the community in a way for people who maybe can't afford to come to counseling yet. They can get a little snippet every month. I mean, they could on our website, we list where we're going each month. And so they could, kind of follow along and come to those trainings. And so I think it's a huge way that group practices can give back, but also get referrals.
Yeah, I love that. That's really, you've created a win-win situation for the community and just the ideal clients and people you're trying to reach, as well as, the win of just exposure of your business. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging to hear another introvert say that you're finding a way to make public speaking work for your business. Because I am the same exact way.
It's sort of draining, but I feel like there's only so much I can do. Blogging is not hard for me. And so when I started the Group Practice Exchange, about 90% of what I was giving was through blogs. So I was like, well, I'm afraid to talk to you, but I can tell you as I type it out how to do it.
Right. Yep. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm mostly just focused on blogs, but some people have asked, are you going to start a podcast? And I'm like, maybe.
Well, look, I mean, you're already, this is what you're doing now is harder. Facebook Live, I just started maybe a month ago. Okay. And I started podcasting a little over a year ago. You just took the harder step. I mean, people watching you live, at least with podcasting, you can edit it. And if you don't like it, you can scrap it.
Yeah. It's been a good learning experience because there has been times where just technology doesn't work. And, but every week the calendar thing pops up. It says Facebook Live usually I do these at 12:30 on Friday. And every week I'm like, okay, I can do this. So
I totally hear you. I have this weird, I guess I call it luck. I'm really fearful of a lot of things when it comes socially. And what I do is I'm not afraid, and I don't even think about it until about 3 or 4 minutes before. And I feel like it works for me because I'd be anxious for a week and a half if I schedule
Right.
something out. And so I'm like, sure, I'll do that thing. And then 2 minutes before, I'm like, oh my God,
Oh,
what did I do to
crap.
myself? And then so I really only have to panic for about 2 minutes. And then
Yeah.
once it's live, then,
Yeah. It totally works. And you just
yeah,
can't take yourself too seriously. And you just kind of, that's what I do. I just try to have fun with it.
yeah,
And just, it's fun to kind of show your human side. So
exactly.
awesome.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's wrap this up with the tip number 5, clinicians marketing themselves to places their ideal clients go.
Yeah. So this one, I feel like I can do a whole hour talk about because this one I can see sort of it can go both ways. So my clinicians don't have to market themselves because their group practice is established enough and we get enough referrals organically that they don't have to. So not every place needs to have their clinicians market. I think most new group practice owners do need to do more face-to-face marketing and have
Yeah.
their clinicians do it because the calls aren't as naturally coming. But there might be a point where this point might not be as important. But even so, even at my stage where I don't need them to market, it's also part of their bonus structure. So if they don't like marketing, they don't have to do it. But if they want to get a bonus, they have to market
Mhm.
twice in that 6-month period. The reason I find it is important, even if it's not really needed for referrals, is that I can only build the brand of my group practice. It's really hard as a clinician, as a group practice owner, to market your clinicians individually on their behalf. And I always use one of my clinicians as an example. Her name is Faria, and she's a certified drug and alcohol counselor. I know nothing about that. I mean, I know enough to say that that's what she does and
Right.
kind of what she does with them. But if I was to go to we have a local rehab facility here. If I was to go, I'm not going to I'm not going to get as many referrals, if any, from them because what I'll be doing is saying, I have this great clinician and she's a certified drug and alcohol counselor and
Right.
she loves working with her clients. Looks like clients don't really leave her. Like there's only so far I can go. But when she
Yeah.
goes, she's enthusiastic about the work she does. She can talk about the specific modalities and the, cases she's worked with and the type of, the way she actually does her work with her clients. That's going to resonate so much more with that potential referral source. And so for that reason itself, that's why I think it's important that clinicians market themselves to
Yeah.
their ideal clients or the places that their ideal clients go. Even if your business doesn't necessarily need it. I think, it again goes back to the point that I made that I look to hire clinicians who this is their career, being a clinician is their career and not just a job to make some money.
Yeah.
If you have people who view their work as their career, which they should if they spent, $60,000+ to get their master's degree,
Right.
then they are invested enough to want to get their name out there. And I look at it as, my group practice. I do all the work to make sure that Urban Wellness is the name of my group is known in our community. But I don't, this is kind of this term that's used a lot, but this abundance mentality. I think it is amazing when a person calls and they don't know even that Urban Wellness exists, but they call because they Googled my clinical director, Lauren, which she does a ton of marketing. So it happens a lot with her. And they say, does Lauren Fontana work here? She did this presentation and we really, really loved her and my kids wanted to see her. I find that so awesome that she did the work and her name is out there even more than mine is in a lot of schools because that's what she works with. And so, like I said, it just kind of goes to the fact that I think it's really important that clinicians market themselves just to get known by their name. And that doesn't hurt the business at all. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people think like, oh, if they can market themselves and if people start to know them, then they can just go off on their own. And if they're business minded, then they should. That's
Right.
how I view it. But if
Yeah.
they're not business minded, they're not going to leave just because they're good at marketing and they're good at getting
Mhm.
clients. So marketing for clinicians, I think it's really important. But I do also think that as the group practice grows, it can be a little less important to do it so often.
Right. Awesome. Wow. This was this was great information. I'm like processing it all and as you're speaking. I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. I need to take notes after this
Yeah.
interview. Awesome. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Maureen, for hopping on here, even
thank
as
you.
another introvert and just putting yourself out there.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
it's my
So
exposure.
it is, yeah. So how can people find you?
They can go to www.thegrouppracticeexchange.com. I don't know why, but I seem to start businesses with really long names. So, thegrouppracticeexchange.com. Everything you can find about me is on there. It's pretty comprehensive. So I have category on new group practice owners information, category on established group practice owners information, a link to our Facebook group if you're interested, and all the different things that I do, courses and one-on-one and masterminds and all that fun stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Maureen. I really appreciate it. And if you don't mind, you can hop into the Facebook group on this video and just post any other links that are, people would find useful, just
Perfect.
so everybody can get to your good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.